Hey guys, it's Brian Castro for Better Chess Training, and won my first round game in the Cleveland Open, and so I just wanted to show you a few highlights, short video, but a couple instructive positions I think you might find interesting. Okay, the first lesson I guess from this game is from the opening. Here we are in a Kali system, and here I play characteristic e4. Black takes, and after taking with the knight, the normal move here is to take with the knight, but there's a little bit of a trap. We see here if he does that right away, I take back with the queen, and then he has to defend against mate as well as this rook is hanging. So here, instead he plays bishop to b7, and the mistake here would have been to capture and allow black to just develop, because now black has pretty much equalized. Instead, I realized that partly because I was higher rated than my opponent, so I wanted to create more complications. I felt that I could outplay him in the complications, and also in general, because I have a little more space here in the center and some lines towards the king side, I wanted to keep more pieces on the board, so I played knight to g3. Okay, and eventually I'll just play the next couple moves here. c5 is played, c3, c takes d4, c takes d4, and here we have an isolated pawn position where, and I'll show you a position from later parts of the game, but in these types of position you want to keep pieces on the board, because if you trade off pieces, then you're just going to have a worse pawn structure for your no compensation for your isolated pawn. So that was the first highlight of the round. The second lesson from this round is the idea of knowing when to I would say back off or consolidate. So in this case, we see here that white has a lot of piece activity. You can see here my bishop is attacking here, very active along this diagonal. My knight here is starting here as well. And my pieces could quickly divert over to the king side. So there's a lot of pressure. My opponent, because of this pressure, played rook to f8, because there are a lot of ideas of sacrificing on f7. And here you'll notice that my a2 pawn is hanging. Now, earlier, this was actually on purpose. I was offering to sacrifice this pawn so that I could create this activity. And but at this point in the game, I saw that I still have this pawn weakness on d4, and his main problem is that he has these two knights kind of step on each other's toes. So they are in a position where, obviously they're occupying squares that they can hop onto. So there's not much piece activity. And this d4 pawn, although it's isolated, is covering the c5 square and e5 square. So this knight really doesn't have many places to go. Now, after doing some analysis, I think what I should have played in the game was something like knight to f4, and maybe offering this trade of bishop for knight, where I'd have the two bishops, and again avoiding these trades of knights, because they're the famous superfluous knights, because they're occupying squares of each other, and they're kind of doing double duty when it's not needed. So it's limiting their activity. Instead, not comfortable with all of the calculations, I actually played a move here. Actually, I played rook to c1 first, driving this queen away, and then I just played a3. And the idea here was that I felt that I had the initiative and all the positional trumps, but I didn't have to try to overpress, because the big mistake that happens sometimes is that when you do have the initiative, you try to push too hard, and it allows your opponent to fight back. And so by playing a3, he no longer has that opportunity to grab that pawn, also keeps that bishop out, and it forces him to make the decision in terms of how to respond. Okay, this last part that I'm going to show you today is really partly about the psychology of chess and keeping your wits about you. So actually in this position, maybe I have a little bit of an initiative, but black is actually fine right here. He traded off my knight on h5, and I think here, if you would have just played something like knight to f6, protecting against mate, he pretty much solves all his problems, because this knight that was on d7 was his problem piece, and he kind of gets rid of that. And now, I mean, I have the c file, but his position is, I think, quite good, actually. I think it's about even here, and I think he doesn't have any problems. However, I think because of all this pressure I've been putting, and actually he told me this after the game, that I was putting so much pressure on him throughout the whole game that he really just wanted to try to alleviate it without really thinking about the consequences. So he actually played queen, or bishop takes g5, and after I take back, he tried to trade off here with queen to d8. And this actually sets in motion a sequence that is winning for me. Not wanting to trade queens, I bring it back here to g3. And here you can see all this control I have over the c file, over the c8 square specifically. And now I'm looking to, because he doesn't have a dark square bishop, come in here on d6. And he makes a mistake here, and that's he plays queen to f6, hoping to defend if I were to play something like bishop to h6. But the problem is, again, this piece here doesn't have anywhere to go. So here I played bishop to b5. And, of course, he's attacking d4. In the game, he actually takes on d4, and he gets two pawns, the d pawn and the b pawn for the knight. But just to show you how dangerous this could be, obviously, if he plays something like rook to d8 protecting the knight, then he gets hit with this pin or the skewer. Of course, if he moves it here, he's just going to lose it. And let's see if there's any other, if he tries to defend it this way, then I think there's some issues there too. I can maybe play something like, I could play something like bishop to d6. And then after he moves his rook, he's definitely in a little bit of trouble here. Let me just take a quick look here. Then I could even come in with something like rook to c7. And eventually I'm going to win this knight. Okay? So what he ended up doing in the game was he took on d4. Let's go back there. He took on d4, and I'll just show you the rest of the game because it's fairly quick. So I take the knight, he takes here, and I play queen to c3, and offering to trade off the queens. Of course, he doesn't want to do that. He wants to keep the position as complicated as possible now that he's down material. Queen to e2, and because he actually has a weakness on this back rank, I attack his rook. Let me just show you what happens here. Let's say he plays something like this, then I could just attack it again. And if he takes the bishop, then it's going to be mate in 2. If he tries to move here, then again it's going to be mate in 2 with this queen check. So he ended up losing in a few more moves. Actually, let me just show you the rest of the game here. He played f6, and he missed this combination here. Bishop takes f8, king takes f8, queen to c8 check. And if he had played queen to e7, I had planned something to the effect of bishop to e7 here, looking to hit him with these checks, but he ended up making it easy for me here with king to f7, and I was able to checkmate him. So that was round 1. Glad to have that in the books, but I have to get ready for round 2. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. Check back soon for future round updates later today or in the next couple days. Also, if you're interested in some of my other tournament play, I have a very interesting endgame in a video here from a tournament I played earlier this year. Okay, have a great day and talk to you soon.